marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on the Russ Belville Show are their own, and the Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes, and welcome. It is Wednesday, November 7th, 2012, and it's got to be legal in 2 states in the United States. Are you excited as we are here at Rolla J? I'm telling you, we had a great time last night up in Seattle, Washington. Big thanks to Jody Emery and Jeremiah, the folks with Pot TV, who helped us out so much on our broadcast last night, our live stream, and also gave me a place to crash for 3 hours? I just got back in from the train from Seattle, Washington, where we were up all night with Rick Steves and Allison Holcomb and Jody Emery and everybody who was involved with I-502, just celebrating the new legal paradigm that we all live under. I mean, it doesn't go into effect until December 6th, but still, you can just feel the joy in the cannabis community today. I've been reading Twitter all day. Cannabis Carry's got a great hashtag out there called Now That It's Legal. Like, think of all the things that you're going to do in Colorado or Washington now that it's legal, like open the door when someone knocks and not have to worry it might be a cop who might smell your weed, right? You can throw away your stems and seeds and not care. You can leave the house smelling like weed with a couple of joints in your pocket, and it's no big deal. The entire world has changed today. And for today's headlines, I'm going to get into all of the latest results. I've compiled them all on the train while I was coming here. We'll give you the final results on all the marijuana election night votes that we brought you yesterday. Also want to thank the tens of thousands of people who watched our stream last night. We had anywhere from 500 to 600 people live at any one time on our stream. And then Pot TV was also running our stream through their stream, and they were getting 500 to 600 people at a time. So it was just a big success. I want to thank all the new viewers who have joined us. We're here every day. We're normally not here this early. We're usually at 3 o'clock Pacific time. But at 3 o'clock Pacific time, I'm going to be on a plane on my way to the other state where marijuana is legal. I'm on my way to Denver to cover the National Medical Marijuana Business Exposition taking place Thursday and Friday. So I'll bring you some live reports from there as well. Cannabis Carry's still out there in Denver, so she won't be on the show today, but I'll be hanging out with her, and we'll be bringing you shows on Thursday and Friday from the first state to legalize marijuana, the first jurisdiction in the world to legalize marijuana. It's now more legal in Denver and Seattle, in Vancouver and Fort Collins than it is in the Netherlands, than it is in Amsterdam. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hi, this is Melissa Etheridge, and I'm encouraging you to vote yes on Amendment 64, because a few years ago, I was going through cancer chemotherapy, and I was suffering. The nausea, the pain, it was terrible. Prescription drugs were not helping. The only thing that allowed me to function and regain my strength was marijuana, and I'm grateful for the relief it provided me. You know, before I needed to use marijuana, I just accepted the laws that treat marijuana users as criminals. But it's funny how a serious illness can give you a new outlook on life. I now see that it's wrong to arrest adults for using marijuana, and it's even more wrong to allow gangs and cartels to profit from selling marijuana. Instead, we should allow adults to possess limited amounts of marijuana, and we should regulate marijuana sales in order to generate tax revenues for public school construction and other community needs. To me, regulating marijuana is simply the right thing to do. Please vote yes on Amendment 64, paid for by the Campaign to Regulate Marijuana like...
Compared to a planet, you're all just a bunch of specks. But we love you all anyway. Mama.
This is tremendous mass waves all over in space.
Five of the last 7 major party candidates to run for president, 3 of the last 7 vice presidential candidates, and the last 3 presidents have all smoked pot. Marijuana, the gateway drug to the White House. This is the Russ Belville Show. Michael Phelps, Olympic superstar, 14 gold medals, world record holder. So much for that amotivational syndrome.
All right, folks, time for us to get behind the headlines here, or actually go to our 420 headline news. Excuse me. Tell you, I've only had 3 hours of sleep, folks. Do the best we can. Now it's time for our 420 headline news with Carrie Gallagher. Carrie is off for the day. I'm Russ Belville with your headline news. And of course, there is but one headline that is standing out for all of us in the cannabis community today, and that is that we have legalized marijuana in the United States of America. I'm going to give you the rundown on some of these. In a historic night of election returns we brought to you live last night on RadicalRuss.com, marijuana users were recognized by the citizens of 2 states to no longer be criminals for their personal use of marijuana. With marijuana legalization victories in Colorado and Washington state, there are now 11.9 million Americans living where possession of marijuana by any adult, even healthy ones, is no longer a crime. Massachusetts also became the 18th state to legalize the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes by certain sick and disabled people. With this victory, 100 million Americans live in a state where medical marijuana use is legal, and that represents represents 1/3 of the United States population and 1/3 of the Electoral College. But even as pro-marijuana initiatives in Oregon, Arkansas, and Montana did not garner majority support, there are still victories to be seen in their results. Plus, many municipal initiatives in Michigan, California, and Vermont went our way. Here's a breakdown of marijuana election night results for 2012 as we learned them from east to west. In Massachusetts, question 3's medical marijuana passed with 63% of the vote. This was our first election victory last night. For the 5th time, medical marijuana passed in a state with greater than 60% support. Medical marijuana is now accepted on the entire Northeast coast, from Delaware to Maine, with the exception of a small slice of non-medical New York. In Michigan, 5 cities passed pro-marijuana measures with large majorities. Flint with 60%, Detroit with 65%, and Grand Rapids with 59% all passed marijuana decriminalization measures. Ypsilanti, Michigan at 74% voted to make marijuana law enforcement the police's lowest priority, and Kalamazoo at 64% expanded access to medical marijuana dispensaries. More New England news from Vermont. Voters in Burlington overwhelmingly pass a referendum calling for marijuana legalization. The city council had already placed this referendum on the ballot by a vote of 11-3 back in September. Burlington voters approved it with a vote of 70% yes for marijuana legalization. Arkansas, the first southern state addressing medical marijuana, just narrowly fails. Despite its loss on the ballot, medical marijuana getting 48% of the vote in the South on its first try is a huge victory for our movement. The discussion has now begun in the Bible Belt, and reformers will position their southern states for another shot in 2016 or sooner. Colorado, the first place on earth in the modern era to legalize marijuana. There is no overstating the enormity of Colorado legalizing marijuana with a vote of 55%. Quite simply, it is the shot heard round the world in our marijuana revolution. We had expected the Colorado race to be much tighter, but it appears that marijuana legalization can pass even with home cultivation and without tightening DUID laws. This should buoy the spirits of opponents of Washington's I-502, who believed its passage would set a stricter precedent for a blueprint to legalize marijuana for other states. Montana voters punish the many for the sins of the few. The only irredeemably sad news to us from marijuana election night was the passage of Montana's referendum to maintain its new, stricter medical marijuana law by a vote of 57%. The people and the legislature clearly felt they needed to curb so-called abuses of the law, which translates into actually getting medicine to patients and being reasonably compensated for doing so. But a flagrant disregard for propriety and too many incidents of corruption and fraud by a few medical marijuana profiteers soured the mainstream on the idea of medical marijuana as compassion. California, your third strike can't be a foul ball. While it wasn't a marijuana measure, Prop 36 in California passed with a whopping 69% of the vote. It changed the three strikes law, which sentences someone who's committed their third felony to life in prison. Under the new law, your third strike must be, quote, serious or violent, unless you're already a convicted murderer, rapist, or child molester. This means no more life sentences for those with two strikes who get busted for a minor marijuana felony. In other results, medical marijuana reformer Rudy Reyes gained only 19% of the votes in his attempt to unseat the mayor of Santee, California. But that's a political unknown with little funding and a pro-marijuana message in conservative San Diego suburbs, taking 1 out of 5 votes from a multiple-term incumbent. Oregon voters are tired of dickering around with medical marijuana. Some may see a defeat in the 45% loss for Oregon's Measure 80 legalization attempt, but the odds were stacked against it from the start. A late qualification for the ballot, little fundraising to promote the measure, broadly defined personal possession and cultivation without limits, and a chief petitioner who has, shall we say, a trust deficit with the public and some reformers. However, when you consider this most liberal legalization did better than the 44% vote that the strictly regulated medical marijuana dispensary measure gained 2 years ago, then this vote is a victory that tells us the people of Oregon are ready to move on from medical marijuana and adopt a reasonable legalization soon. Washington, the second state to legalize marijuana, just seals the deal. Washington state passing I-502 with 55% of the vote, matching Colorado's result, shows that different states require different tactics for marijuana legalization. If you put I-502 in Colorado, its lack of home grow and addition of per se DUID would have doomed it. If you put Amendment 64 in Washington, its home cultivation and lack of a per se DUID would have doomed it. There is no true legalization, other than the one you can place on the ballot and that 50% plus one of the voters will approve. I'm Russ Belville with your 420 Headline News. When we come back, we'll go behind the headlines from our election results and take a look forward as to what we can expect from our opponents now that we've legalized marijuana in 2 United States. It's the Russ Belville Show. We'll be right back.
What's happening, cool cats? This is Big Daddy, and I want you to cruise on over to the Funky Roller Rink. We'll be grooving all night long. Doors open at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, every Thursday night, right here on RadicalRuss.com.
Funky-licious.
Hi, this is Dan Michaels. If you're looking for professional voice talent for your commercial or podcast, I'm your man. Visit danmichaelsaudio.com for more information.
All right, welcome back. It's time for us to go behind the headlines here and taking a look at our marijuana election night results. I think it's important for us to remember that the battle is not over yet. Today is just the beginning of a new era. Today is the first day of the end of marijuana prohibition in America, but it's not the end of marijuana prohibition in America. Oregon and California, we got to come back in 2014. We got to come back with a vengeance so we can seal up the whole West Coast and make it completely legal from Canada to Mexico on all the way on from the beaches to the borders, the borders east. We're going to make it legal across the entire West Coast. And our allies in Massachusetts and Michigan have also sown the seeds of legalization with all their municipal votes that they've been doing. And the win they just had in Massachusetts with medical marijuana. So we know that those states in the upper Midwest and in the Northeast, the New England states, we know they will be getting on the legalization bandwagon in the next couple of elections. In the South, we'll look at Arkansas again to try once again to get medical marijuana. Joining them will most likely be Missouri, where we've got a strong activist base there that has been passing various measures over the years that should put them in good standing to go forward in the future elections. And of course, we've got Bobby Platshort down there with the Silver Tour, and he's working in Florida to get seniors to understand why they need medical marijuana. We get his Should Grandma Smoke Pot ad on more TV stations, and I'm sure we will get more states to turn to medical marijuana. But you got to remember, our opponents are going to be nipping at our heels the whole way. Before, they could only conjure phantasms of fright about what might happen if pot were legalized. Oh no. But now they're going to have concrete examples and statistics. And every kid that gets busted with weed or every car that gets wrecked by a stoner is going to be pinned to the new legalization. Despite the fact that prohibition never stopped that stuff either. That's not the point. They're going to try to show every bad thing that happens as being a result of legalization, not something that's just inherent in human nature. So we got to be very diligent to make sure that we squash any of that reefer madness whenever it appears and let them know that marijuana does not make people stupid and reckless, but some stupid and reckless people do smoke marijuana. So be on your toes, be responsible, be the law-abiding cannabis consumers that we've always told them that we are. We need to start setting a good example. We need to start setting it now. We're nowhere close to done. You know, when I worked for Normal, the haters would always say that, Normal doesn't really want to legalize because it would put them out of a job. Well, that's kind of the opposite of the truth. Now that we have legalization in 2 states, we got 48 to go. And the 2 that have legalization still need a whole lot of improvements. Legalization, my friends, is a process. Freedom is the destination. And these victories tonight, November 6th, will live forever as the day we began to end prohibition. Oh my goodness, 20 after already. Well, I guess now we'll have to smoke some pot. If you're in Washington or Colorado, enjoy a legal toke for me, will you? And I'll join you soon.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
I have to say that there was one question that was voted on that ranked fairly high, and that was whether legalizing marijuana would improve the economy and job creation. I don't know what this says about the online audience, but the answer is no. I don't think that is a good strategy to grow our economy. So.
About nearly 1 million lives wrecked by a marijuana arrest every year, Mr. President. Politely tell President Obama what you think about legalization by calling the White House at 202-456-1111. Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Irie Wednesday, featuring reggae, ska, and other world music genres. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
Welcome back, everybody, and we are so excited here at the Russ Belville Show. If you got to tune into our coverage last night, you could hear the screams and the shouts of the people in Colorado. Carrie was there in Denver. We couldn't even hear Carrie talking to us, really. It was so much chaos and excitement. I remember her saying, though, last night that there was chanting. People in the crowd were chanting, "No more handcuffs. No more handcuffs." And yeah, that's exactly it. It's a beautiful day to be a cannabis consumer. And I just think of all the warriors who fought to get us where we are today, who aren't with us, who didn't live long enough to see this day. Jack Herer, Dr. Todd McArea, Dr. John Morgan, Lynn Zimmer, so many. I can't even name them all. Ben Maisel up in Wisconsin. And others who are in prison now, who we didn't get this changed in time for them. People like Eddie Lepp and Roger Christie and Chris Barkowitz and Dr. Molly Fry and Dale Schaefer. And so, for all of them, that reminds me that we need to keep moving forward, that we can't take our eye off the prize. Winning the possession of an ounce, and in Colorado, winning the right to grow 3 plants, that's not enough. That's not enough. It's a great victory, but we've got to keep moving forward. We've got to get it to the point when nobody cares how much marijuana you got, how much marijuana you're growing, and anybody can buy and sell it. We're going to get it to that point. But remember, progress is made in baby steps, and it always happens this way, especially when we're talking about civil rights. We got to get past a scared public, and we got to continue to fight for what we can win, and we're going to keep doing that. So in honor of that, for today's Daily Toker Tunes, I'm going to step outside licensing just a little bit because I don't care today. Today we're going to play the only song that would make any sense to play today. This is Sublime's cover of Peter Tosh. Let's get it on, because we are going to legalize it. And you know what? We just did.
them call it boo. Some call it marijuana, yeah. I strictly call it stock. Singers smoke it, and players of double bass too. Doctors smoke it, yeah. And my mom smokes
When I was in England, I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it, and didn't inhale, and never tried it again.
I think you'd probably be a lot cooler if you had, Mr. President.
Said, hey, do you have it going, kids? Sure would be a lot cooler if you did. Light it, don't hide it. Light it, don't hide it. Oh, light it, don't hide it. Light it, don't hide it. Just light it, don't hide it. Fire it up right now.
The cannabis community includes a diverse set of activists and nonprofits working to end the prohibition of marijuana. We take the time to hear the stories of reform on the Russ Belville Show's Cannabis Community Chat.
Welcome back, everybody. Half past, and normally we'd be speaking to Dr. Mitch Earlywine today, but with my schedule and the flying around, it's not going to happen. So save your questions for next week. We'll talk to Dr. Mitch on Wednesday. But for today, it's just Cannabis Community Chat time. And also, I'm not going to be running an hour 2 today because, frankly, I'm exhausted. And I have to get to an airplane to head to Denver. Yeah, I know. It's tough, right? I go from Seattle, where there's legal weed, to Denver, where there's legal weed. And next week I go to Amsterdam, where there's kind of legal weed. So It's not so bad as far as jobs go. So I just wanted to open up the phone lines right now, as we normally would in Toker Talk Radio, which we're not going to get a chance to do today. Our phone number is 971-533-7111. And if you just have something to say, you want to celebrate, you want to tell us how it feels to live in a legal state, or how it feels to be in an illegal state and see 2 states pass legalization, well, the phones are open if you want to chat. It's 971-533-7111. In the meantime, I'm just going to go over some random stuff that I've found across the net with respect to this legalization passing. It's been interesting seeing some of the reactions, and the most interesting reaction to me comes from that beer millionaire, the beer millionaire who's the governor of Colorado. His name's John Hickenlooper. That's right, Hickenlooper. And John Hickenlooper made his money on Pyramid Ale. If you've ever had a Pyramid Ale, he's the guy, right? He's the microbrewer, and he's got this big empire out there in Colorado. He's made a ton of money on it, right? So this guy, who's been a beer peddler all his life, made his fortune on beer, has a problem with us passing marijuana legalization. Let me read to you from CNN what he says. Let's see if I can get this whole thing read. Let me find the first one that I saw here. This is on Washington Post blogs for about 15 hours ago. Hickenlooper on the Colorado pot vote. Don't break out the Cheetos. What? So here's what he said. This is from Washington Post. Amendment legalizing recreational marijuana use and sale passed in Colorado Tuesday night, and opposing Governor John Hickenlooper, Democrat, conceded defeat with a warning for the stoners. Quote, "The voters have spoken, and we have to respect their will. This will be darn it. It sure sucks when voters do stuff. Isn't that awful? The voters have spoken, and we will have to respect their will, even though they did something so stupid as to legalize pot." No, he didn't say that, but anyway. "The voters have spoken, and we have to respect their will," Hickenlooper said on Amendment 64. "This will be a complicated process, but we intend to follow through. That said, federal law still says marijuana is an illegal drug, so don't break out the Cheetos or Goldfish too quickly." Ha 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 ha. Hickenlooper. Governor Hickenlooper. All right, so don't break out Cheetos or Goldfish because it's still federally illegal. Right, because none of us have been smoking pot here because we were worried about what the feds thought. Right? You're in a state packed with medical marijuana patients, a medical marijuana amendment, a part of your damn constitution that is blatantly in violation of federal law. Seems like they haven't been worried too much about whether or not they're using pot and what the federal government seems to think about it. Why should we, now that it's legal? And in fact, we have even more reason to celebrate than when the patients got their red cards back in, 2000? Because remember, medical marijuana laws do not mean you're legal. I know a lot of people get that mistaken impression. But if you're a medical marijuana patient, you're not legal. You're exempt from criminal prosecution. Right? You are guilty until proven patient is what it is. So we actually have more freedom now. When we say that we're smoking legally, we're really smoking legally. Really, actually legal. And some of these politicians just can't handle it. They're just heads are starting to explode here. And finding out more stuff out on Huffington Post here. AG Suthers, Attorney General Suthers, out there in Colorado, has also spoken out on this. Colorado's Attorney General has issued a strong and detailed statement about how the amendment might be implemented in the state, and also called out the Department of Justice to make its enforcement intentions known. And here's from the Colorado Attorney General. Despite my strongly held belief that legalization of marijuana on a state level is very bad public policy, voters can be assured that the Attorney General's office will move forward in assisting the pertinent executive branch agencies to implement this new provision in the Colorado Constitution. Well, that bodes well, doesn't it? That gives you a lot of confidence that they're going to follow the will of the voters and the intent there, and they're not going to try to pull some sort of fast one in the way that they structure things to make things tougher on us, right? Despite my strongly held belief that legalization is very bad public policy, I'll implement it. I'll go right ahead and implement it. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. Even though it's really bad idea. Even though it's a terrible, terrible idea. Terrible idea, but I'll implement it. Yeah, okay. Let me continue with this statement. Coloradans should be cognizant of two caveats, however. First, the ability of the federal government to criminally sanction possession, use, and distribution of marijuana, even if grown, distributed, and used in a single state, was recognized by the U.S. Supreme Court. Therefore, absent action by Congress, Coloradans should not expect to see successful legal challenges to the ability of the federal government to enforce its marijuana laws in Colorado. Right. Okay. He's absolutely right. Right now, the federal government, DEA agents, could come down those stairs right over there for my little bowl of buds. Right now, federal cops, this is a federal crime. This is a felony, federal felony right here. Right now. Can do it right now. Here's the problem. They don't have the manpower to do that. There are 10,000 employees in the DEA. 5,000 of them are special agents. 5,000 of them. 26.1 million of us nationwide who are smoking pot annually. 16.1 million nationwide who are smoking pot monthly. And at least 2.5 million who are smoking pot almost every day, like me. So 5,000 special agents. 2.5 million daily tokers. They don't have the resources. What they do tend to focus on is the big scale grower, the big scale seller. If it's over 100 plants, they can get a mandatory minimum that, makes their, nipples hard, whatever. So, that's what they'll focus on. That's what the feds will focus on. And sure, they're going to still do that. They still have the power to do that. But are they? I highly doubt it. Now, the federal government could take it into court and, sue to have an injunction against the commercial scheme, the taxing and regulating and the selling. There ain't a damn thing they can do about the possession. Not a damn thing. The federal government has absolutely zero power to force a state to criminalize something. It cannot go to Colorado and say, no, you really do need to be locking up those guys for less than an ounce. Can't do it. So very worst case scenario, is that we still have legal possession of an ounce, no matter what else happens. And legal growing of 3 plants in Colorado, 3 mature, 3 immature plants. And this is the big one, folks, possession of the results of the harvests at the location of the grow site. Do you know what that means? Do you fully recognize what just happened in Colorado? You get to grow 3 plants. I know guys growing 3 plants, growing a plant, they can get £1 off a plant. That's not unheard of. Even indoors. Guys in Southern Oregon been known to get dozen pounds off of a plant. Not unheard of. And when you grow those plants, your 3 plants in Colorado, and you're allowed to possess at your home or your grow site the results of that harvest. Now, logically, their thought here is that you can possess up to an ounce, right? So if you harvest a pound or 2 or 3, you keep it in storage and you take from it 1 ounce at a time whenever you need to go out and have an ounce. But also understand that harvests, plural, is a term that means all of them, right? That means over time, right? So like the 3 plants that I harvested this harvest, and then them 3 seedlings I brought up and I harvested those 3 matures and there was 3 seedlings behind them, right? And then I bring those seedlings up to maturity and then I have another 3 behind them, right? And over the span of a year, how much marijuana have I harvested at my grow site off of 3 plants? Get the picture, folks? Get the idea of how huge this is. Now, again, we got to be careful. We can't have people abusing that, going real crazy about it. And this is what they're going to come back with, folks. I can write the prohibitionist arguments from this point on. Number 1 argument, you're going to see the price drop. You're going to see the price of marijuana drop. We saw that with the Mexican Institute of Competitiveness when they came out and they showed just one state legalizing could drop the price from 40 to 50% nationwide average everywhere but the border states of Mexico, pretty much. Some states in close proximity to Colorado or Oregon could see their prices drop up to 75%. So what they're going to see is a lot of movement of marijuana. Now, I know every time we legalize, we always write these things to say we're going to discourage diversion from the state, but come on. It's just us talking, right? We know if there's cheap weed to be had, it's going to make its way to the people who want it. You cannot repeal the laws of supply and demand. So, Idaho, you're welcome. You're welcome for the future $150 ounces that are coming your way. And that's what the prohibitionists are going to seize on. They're going to see what happened. Oh my God, we legalized it and it just went out of control. What it's really going to be is not much more than what is already out there. Marijuana is already trafficked, right? But now, when they get that big bust of the square groupers, right, they're going to make a big deal of it, legalization led to this. Well, wait a minute. Like 2 years ago, didn't you just do the same damn photo op? It didn't lead to anything. You're just coming up with a new excuse for what already happens. So that's part of what we're going to see. Number two, we're going to see an increase in use. I know. We argue with the drug warriors and they say that, oh my God, you legalize weed and use is going to go up. It is, folks. It is going to go up. I mean, ask yourself, you right now sitting there in wherever you're at and being the weed aficionado that you are, just think to yourself how difficult it is to score a bag, how much you scrimp and pick and are careful to smoke every little bit of leaf off of it to make sure you don't waste any because it costs so much. Now, drop that price. Drop that price and see if you don't buy a bigger bag. Smoke a little more of it. See if maybe people that were having to make choices between spending on weed and rent have a little more money to spend on weed. Use will go up. But is that a problem? We'll talk about that when we come back.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
There is a peaceful solution called a peace revolution. And now let's take back America.
Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Like millions of freedom-loving Americans, I'm a marijuana smoker, and I don't think that should be any of the government's business. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana. The next time you light up, take the time to let your elected officials know how you feel. It's time we legalize marijuana and stop treating marijuana smokers like criminals. For more information on how you can help legalize marijuana, please contact NORML at norml.org.
Tonight, I appeared on Jeopardy, and, well, how do I say this? I lost. Not only did I lose, I lost to this guy. That's right. I lost to Cheech Marin. Cheech of Cheech and Chong fame, hot smoking star of blunt-burning films like Up in Smoke, Next Smoke, and Still Smoking. He not only beat me, he crushed me. When I heard I was up against Cheech Marin, I admit I thought his reflexes would be slow, not to mention his synapses perhaps, but I was so very, very wrong.
This guy as Conan the Barbarian on What's Best in Life, to crush your enemies and to hear the lamentation of their women. Cheech.
Who is Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes. Cheech again.
Who is Al Pacino?
Right. Cheech.
What is Pillow Talk?
Right. Cheech.
What is Never Never Land?
Yes. Cheech.
What is Camelot?
Yes. Cheech.
What is a baster?
Yes. You're the winner today. Your charity will get $50,000 and Aisha and Anderson's charity $25,000 each.
So I admit it, I lost to Cheech Marin. I tied for second with comedian Aisha Taylor, who is also a great player. And joining us now is the two-time Jeopardy champion, the man who crushed me, Cheech Marin. Cheech, congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much, Anderson.
Have people just been congratulating you? Do they pour out into the streets to congratulate you? Because people have been mocking me mercilessly since this thing was aired tonight.
It's tough when you can't hit a big league curveball, man. That's the separation point.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
All right, welcome back, folks. It is 46 after the hour now, and time to have a little bit of a radical rant. Gonna ramble a little on this one because I got just so much going through my head, and really I've only had about 3 hours of sleep, so bear with me. First, I wanted to address something that just came up in the chat room where there was someone asking, did DARE actually officially take marijuana out of its curriculum? No, they did not. There was a station that reported about a DARE cop complaining that the marijuana sections weren't in the book, the official curriculum that it was going to use next year. That got reported on the wires. And then certain websites out there that told you to vote against legalization repeatedly, these websites tweeted that out and put a story out that DARE removes this from the curriculum. And so this happened yesterday. I saw this come across the wires yesterday. And so I thought, that sounds a little fishy to me. I can't see, because DARE, if you think about it, right? DARE isn't just drugs, right? DARE takes a look at alcohol and tobacco, right? I didn't go through DARE. I'm a little bit older than that, but all the kids that told me that have gone through DARE, they said, yeah, they have an alcohol section, a cigarette section too. So why would you not have, that doesn't make any sense. So I did a little digging on it, and I got to Reason magazine. I think Mike Riggs was the one out at Reason that took a look at this and contacted, did some journalism, like a reporter, like someone who has a job to present facts to the public and do so in a trustworthy manner. Yeah. So he actually did reporting and research. It's called fact checking, and looked up on the story. Called the DARE headquarters people, the people who run DARE. I don't know where they're at, but calls them up, and they said, no, not removing marijuana. And they gave him access to their curriculum and showed, sure enough, there's a couple pages on marijuana that are still in the DARE curriculum, right? Now, anybody can make a mistake. I've done it. I've reported on stuff and then realized later, like, oh shit, that was wrong. But you know what I do? I issue a retraction. I put a little update in the blog post, or I tell people that, oh, geez, I made a mistake here. Here's why. Here's what's wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it. Right. But this morning, as I'm on the train and I'm checking up on my tweets that are coming through, here comes that tweet again from this website saying that the DARE has removed marijuana from the curriculum. And it just goes to show you that some people out there that are calling themselves reformers, some people that are involved in the marijuana movement, not only don't have your best interests at heart, but don't have the integrity to do their job the right way. They don't have the understanding of what it means to be a professional. Let's just put it that way. And so now this DARE removed marijuana meme is going all around the cannabis community. I'm getting people asking me, is this real true? Is this really true? And it's not. And it's just frustrating because it's just another example of what happened through this entire legalization campaign in Washington state, where, the lie is halfway around the world before the truth has put its pants on, right? I probably mangled that saying. But anyway, that's similar to what we saw with the 502 campaign. And this goes back to my reporting when I reported on the DUIDs, how many DUIDs there were before and after a state instituted a per se DUID. And I reported that in Nevada, they went up 76%. And I put out a post where I said, oh, well, to be fair, because that doesn't help my argument, right? Because I was trying to make the argument, and this is when I went in to look at the data. In my mind, I'm thinking, because I had a hunch, I had a hypothesis. This is how science works, right? You make a hypothesis, you gather data, see if the data stands up to the hypothesis. Does it further the theory? Does it not? Adjust the hypothesis. Science. So I had this hypothesis that DUIs probably didn't really go up that much after the institution of a per se DUID. Because really, a DUID, people get this confusing idea of how the justice system works. But the process of getting a DUID at the cop level doesn't change. At the cop level, they've got to observe you being impaired, driving some way weird, get you pulled over, suspect that you're impaired by seeing that you got bloodshot eyes, you got liquor on your breath, you're slurring your words, whatever. Run you through a gamut of tests if they can get you to do them, like the roadside sobriety test and the, roadside breathalyzer, that kind of stuff, right? Having a per se statute doesn't change, though, the job of the cop. So my hypothesis was, well, this really can't be much of a difference. I bet there's not much difference if you look the year before, year after. So I combed through all of the FBI Uniform Crime Report numbers I could find. And sure enough, in Nevada, when I found the Nevada, now there was some others that went up too. Like Indiana went up 33%. There was another one that went up like 8 or 9%. But there were others that went down 5-6% here and there. So I came upon the number for Nevada, and it was a jump of 76%. It went like from 5,000 DUIs to 9,000 DUIs in the 2-year span over which DUIDs became per se. Zero tolerance, mind you. So I'm like, oh my God, 76%. So I wrote this headline, 76% increase in DUIs. And that was out on the web for, 6 hours maybe. And then I, had some work to do. And then later on, I got to thinking about it. I go, God, that still seems weird to me. That still seems odd. So I went back to the FBI Uniform Crime Report numbers that I had looked up, and I'm looking down, the states. And of course, when you look up this table, it's this really wide table because along the columns, they got all the different crimes there are: murder, rape, robbery, theft, gambling, vagrancy, blah, 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 big long column. So that when you scroll across, right, like you got to go down here and you got to find Nevada, and you kind of like highlight it, and then you got to scroll across and find where drug abuse is and DUIs there, right? So turns out when I went back to the far left over there on Nevada was a little subscript D, I think it was for a footnote. Like, oh, well, that's interesting. Let's check this footnote. So I go down to the footnote, and it says incomplete data. Is something to the effect of incomplete data. Nevada's agencies did not report all of their DUIs to the FBI in a timely manner. So this number, the 2002 number, represents three law enforcement agencies that did report their numbers. Like, okay. So then I went to the 2004 numbers, the after, right? The one that had 9,000, and it had 31 of the agencies reporting. Okay. So this would be like, take the DUI numbers you got from Las Vegas, Reno, and Carson City, and then compare them to the DUI numbers you got from those cities and the whole rest of the state. And yeah, they went up, 76%, because you're comparing apples and oranges. You're comparing the report of 3 police agencies versus the report of 31 police agencies. So as soon as I found that out, I'm like, oh crap, I really laid a stinker out on the net there. Let me go clean that up. I posted an update. I posted a big long explanation of how there was different numbers of the different numbers that from the before and the after and how they didn't jibe. It's apples and oranges, yada, yada. So I figure my work's done there, right? In the next day or two, a post comes up on this website that urged everyone to vote against I-502. This website that continues to tell people that DARE has removed marijuana from their curriculum. So this website posted, and they were so against I-502, they put up a post of marijuana DUI or DUIDs went up 76% in Nevada. Big alarmist headline. And this news just in, reporting from, data from Normal shows that in Nevada, when they institute a per se DUID, it went up 76%. This shows how I-502 would be terrible because a per se DUID would institute, and everybody's going to go to jail. Right? So I go to the comment section and I reply with, hey, sorry that I reported these numbers without giving the heads up, but now there's a heads up on it. There's an update. And in the update, it says that, that 76% number is kind of bogus because it's an apples and oranges comparison. So you really ought to either delete this article or retract it or put some sort of update in there, right? Because it's not fair now. Nope. Never happened. I believe that article's still up there today. I won't give you the link because every click and every link that goes to this certain website means money in the pocket of somebody who told me that I need to remain a criminal when I am in Washington state. So I won't give you the link, but maybe someone in the chat room can find it, something like that. Anyhow, to wind up the rant, just wanted to get back to the statements coming out of Colorado with their passage of marijuana legalization. Hickenlooper, the governor, said his thing, about, don't break out the Cheetos or goldfish too quickly. In September, when he was talking about this, he said, this is Hickenlooper. He had said, Colorado is known for a great many things. Marijuana should not be one of them. Like it isn't already. Amendment 64 has the potential to increase the number of children using drugs and would detract from efforts to make Colorado the healthiest state in the nation. It sends the wrong message to kids that drugs are okay, end quote, said the guy who made his fortune off of beer. So Mason Tvert, who just passed marijuana legalization in Colorado, said this: Governor Hickenlooper's statements today rank as some of the most hypocritical statements in the history of politics. After building a personal fortune by selling alcohol to Coloradans, he is now basing his opposition to this measure on concerns about the health of his citizens and the message being sent to children. We certainly hope he's aware that alcohol actually kills people. Marijuana use does not. The public health costs of alcohol use overall are approximately 8 times greater per person than those associated with marijuana. And alcohol use is associated with violent crime. Marijuana use is not. So, great reply there. And finally, there was another part that I want to make sure we got in here, is that the Colorado Attorney General, after telling everybody in his statement that, the federal government can still come after you, because it's still federally illegal, and I kind of explained how they won't because they can't afford to, he goes on to say, therefore, absent action by Congress, Coloradans should not expect to see a successful legal challenge to the ability of the federal government to enforce its marijuana laws in Colorado. Accordingly, I call upon the United States Department of Justice to make known its intentions regarding prosecution of activities sanctioned by Amendment 64, particularly large wholesale grow operations, as soon as possible in order to assist state regulators and the citizens of Colorado in making decisions about the implementation of Amendment 64. Okay, so ball's in your court, Attorney General Eric Holder. What will the feds do? Are you going to let states of Washington and Colorado move forward with wholesale production, wholesale cultivation on a commercial scale, and retail distribution of marijuana? What are you going to do about it? Going to shut them down? Going to send some threatening letters? Tell the IRS to audit their books? To have the Treasury Department strong-arm the banks not to do business with them? What are you going to do? I'll tell you what my theory is what they're going to do. I've had this theory for a while. Is that they start threatening federal highway funds. Remember when they wanted to get the 21 drinking age passed back in the 80s? And a lot of states, especially out west, said, nah, if you can vote, you should be able to drink. And Ronald Reagan said, well, I guess we'll take your highway funds then. And that was that. Now it's 21 across the nation. Federal government's got a lot of tricks up its sleeve that have nothing to do with sending cops after you. All sorts of things to do with keeping your ass tied up in court. But you know what? That's the battle we want, people. That's what we want. We want the federal government in court, and we want the attorneys general of Washington and Colorado in court fighting in our behalf and standing up for what the taxpayers and the voters have passed in those states by a 55% margin in both, and that is you and me are no longer criminals for our personal use of marijuana. I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it.